everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out Live. This is the Wrestling Conversation, and on this program, we are going to be talking everything pro wrestling. We might talk about somebody, something, or anybody on this program. You never know. Before I bring the guest in, Jack Lord and Rodney West are the co-hosts, not the guest. I want to first tell you, if you have not liked and shared the page on Facebook, please do so. And if you have not, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching it, please subscribe and also hit that notification bell and give us all a thumbs up and let us know that you like what we're doing. All right, now, folks, let's bring it right now. Jack Lord, welcome. And for some reason, Rodney has dropped out for some reason.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to start my cam. Hold on.
His cam was, there you go.
Apparently I didn't use the right finger. I wasn't using the thumb when I did the notification.
You just had that little round thing going off and on. So
yeah. I used the wrong finger when I was doing the thumbs up. It was another one.
All right. The first thing we need to talk about, we've let the people know, if you're watching on Facebook, to please like and share the page, and we've talked about YouTube. So the first thing I need to ask Jack is, what's the deal on the Alabama Athletic Commission? Has anything new happened?
Well, presently, they have scrubbed their Facebook page. They are no longer responding to any messages or comments. And if you do comment in any way, I guess, that they don't like, they delete your comment. But they're being very, very quiet, probably because they have caught wind of the federal lawsuit being filed for 14th Amendment violations. So I suppose they're just trying to pray this floats by, and it ain't going to.
Well, I looked online today. There's 23 separate promotions that have license in 2020 for the state of Alabama. You would think the folks that are working and doing this would understand there's 23 promotions. You're allowing one person to do so. And if I came along, and I've noticed that the folks in Piedmont, Alabama, they have 3 weeks already scheduled for July, a couple of MMA fights and stuff. But so that means if I came along and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to run Piedmont, Alabama every Saturday, and I paid my stuff, that means they're the only group that will ever get to run wrestling. That's completely wrong.
Yeah.
So that needs to be fixed. And if it doesn't get fixed, I think that, I don't have a lot of causes that I like to push on, but I think this is one cause we need to go after and make sure. And I know Rodney can really work on those very well.
I love stirring up government people. That's one of my favorite things to do.
well, you guys know, y'all know how kind of reserved I am. I really am. I'm not as. It
sounds like the Athletic Commission of Alabama is unfriended Alabama.
Yeah, I think I'm about the only promoter type person that hasn't been blocked from their page. And I asked another promoter, I said, have you been blocked? He said, yeah, all the promoters have been blocked. And I said, well, they hadn't blocked me. And he said, well, they know who you are. So maybe, I don't know. Again, goes back to my deal. I smoke cigars and I know people, and I have talked to a few.
Well, we definitely need to. If you don't hear nothing from them in the next week or two, then I think myself and Rodney, we're gonna jump on the bandwagon, and we're going to do what we can to get the state of Alabama to understand that one wrestling group getting to run our boxing group out of 23 of your promotions that are paying your fees once a year to be a promoter that cannot run professional wrestling is completely wrong, and there needs to be something done about that. And we need to take care of that. If you don't hear nothing, you don't want Rodney on you. He's been on a lot of people in this world.
I enjoy it. Hey, I get them hollering back.
he is good at that. Let's say hello to David Lawson. Just wanted to say what an awesome tribute to Mr. Wrestling #2.
Yeah.
Loved it. Well done.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We enjoyed doing it, and we're going to be doing another part 2 of Mr. Wrestling 2. We started his career. We'll be doing one and sometime in July, and we're hoping to bring Robert back and so he can help talk about his career. Jordan said the movement to abolish the Alabama State Athletic Commission has gained a lot of steam. So Jack is doing something right there. So Bubba Griffin, Pensacola is in the house. Mike Schaefer said he's watching from Bama. David Lawson said, "Awesome shirt, Jack. Prayers for Tracy." Where can we get those shirts again, Jack?
I think this run has sold out. They may do some more. Cassius Ono, who worked for NXT, he just got cut here not too long ago, but he spearheaded this, and they did sell out of this run. But hopefully they'll do another because, one, it's a great shirt, but two, it goes to a great guy. So
yes. It does. And I did also hear that Bobby Fulton of the Fantastics is cancer-free.
Oh, awesome.
I did learn that. That's great for Bobby Fulton. Bobby Fulton, a great guy, and we'd like to send a hello to him, and it's good to hear that from there's old Turbo Ted, right there. Turbo Ted. Again with us. This guy right here, we are going to talk to him. How you doing, Chris? See him. He is going to come on the show, and I talked to Jack about this. He goes way back to the old carnival days with him and Ward Hall. Ward Hall, he's going to come on the show, and he's going to talk to us about the old carnival days and how wrestling and carnival got together and how all the lingo started and how that all got. And he's going to come on the show. Yeah, I'm going to work on what day that's going to be, but Rodney, you know that's going to be a very interesting show.
It's going to be good.
He can tell some stories. He's got some great stories.
Yeah.
He worked for World Championship Wrestling for a while.
When you hear that voice, that's the voice that was. It's like that person. Get your tickets now. Get your tickets now. Come on in and see the bearded lady. It's him, Chris, doing it.
Yes.
He's great.
Rodney West. Hey, Rodney West, #2. Let's see. Jordan said to you, Jack, if the Athletic Commission gets abolished, I'll buy you some Jack's Jack Lord. He's going to get you some Jack's burgers. That's a great place to eat, by the way.
Actually, I'm hoping he meant Jack Daniels, but you know.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Maybe that's what he meant. I don't know. I was thinking the clean version of it.
I'm a heavy drinker. It took me 2 years to finish the last bottle. So,
Dennis Mitchell, I have a question for your memories of Rock Hunter, your reaction to him being blacklisted for wrestling before Eddie Mansfield. Did he get blackballed? Did he get blacklisted?
I have heard rumors of that. I never did really know that story.
I don't remember him getting blacklisted, but now I know that I know he probably went and worked. Did he go work for Thunderbolt and Jim Wilson back in those days?
I believe he did.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe he did. Yeah, but Dad had nothing bad to say about Rock Hunter. No, not a thing. He liked Rock Hunter for all we know.
I never met anybody that had anything bad to say about him.
No, I never heard that, but hey, I will look in on that, and I will ask some people that might know about Rock Hunter and what went on with him. But I never knew he got blacklisted. So I know some people did get blacklisted in the wrestling business, Jim Wilson being one of them. But I don't know that, and I know Eddie Mansfield did for obvious reasons. I mean, he's still way out there in left field to this day. If anybody will watch Dark Side of the Ring. I think he's still living in the 80s. Rodney West, the other Rodney West. Oh, which one did we figure you were?
He's much older than I am, so he makes him #1, and I'm #2.
Well, he said great show. He wanted to.
Yes, absolutely.
Paul Hatchett, looking forward to June 20th in Rome, Georgia. Hey, what's that information for that event, Jack?
KLT Promotions returns 2561 Shorter Avenue in Rome. We'll be there this Saturday. Show starts at 7:30 p.m. We got a great one lined up. We're doing 2 shows back to back. We're doing the 20th and the 27th, so we get 2 shows in this month, and then we're back on our bi-weekly schedule next month.
Make sure you get out there to it. Is it KLT Promotions? Is that how you get to it on Facebook?
Yeah.
All right, go over there and look that up. And if you're in the Georgia area, make sure you make it there and watch the wrestling this Saturday. Any thoughts on the backlash this past Sunday? Well, did Edge get hurt? Did he not get a
he did. He tore a tricep. And the sad thing about that was that they pre-taped that match. And they reshot a couple of things, and it was during the reshoot where he tore his tricep. He actually got through the match just fine, but it was the reshoot where he got injured. Now he's going to be out for 8 months, and that kills the big SummerSlam match they had planned. And I hate that because I thought that was a heck of a match.
So it was a good match.
And what's the lesson to be learned here? Don't research and don't treat the wrestling business like a 2-bit TV show. Excuse me.
Well, they piped in crowd noise too, and I didn't care for that.
That would help too. What about a laugh track? That's what I'm doing now.
Now listen, they had that during one of the tag matches.
Oh man!
I mean, they had fighting ninjas on motorcycles and an 8-foot tall ninja that drew a sword, and they were fighting with. I mean, it was.
Are we to the point
it was entertainment? It was entertainment.
Have we jumped the shark yet? That's the question.
Jumped it. I think they were riding that sucker.
Well, while we're talking about WWE, Paul Heyman was let go. Bruce Pritchard was put in there, and this is what they're always saying in WWE. Constantly, they'll say that. Well, we need to keep the guys around so that the shows have some kind of continuity, I believe is what they use. I think that's the word they use. And anytime they get rid of somebody, that's what they say. Now, Rodney figures out he knows why Paul Heyman got fired.
Well,
I guess he got fired.
As you well know, there's a theory that I have. If you mention wrestling, if you talk about wrestling, if you even hint about wrestling, you will be in the unemployment line by the end of the day. He did that. If I understand, they talked about wrestling and said wrestlers in one of their shows. And what happened? Hit the road, Jack. You don't insult us like that.
It was several shows. They said pro wrestling. They referred to to themselves as wrestlers, and supposedly Heyman had really pushed that, and Vince agreed, and I was surprised, and now I'm not surprised.
He's out the door. I'm sure when Stephanie had to go to her plastic surgeon, he said, "I see y'all are promoting professional wrestling again." She went, "Daddy, my plastic surgeon's making fun of me again. We're not promoting wrestling. We've got to cut that out. Get rid of that terrible Paul."
I'll have to tell you that I read a story too that said that AJ Styles was upset with Paul Heyman because his buddies got fired. Well, does he realize that Paul Heyman had no control over who got fired? That was Vince McMahon. Is he going to show that attitude to Vince McMahon the next time he goes to the show?
I get why he was upset. I thought those guys were misused the entire time they were up there. But, that's the nature of the beast up there. It's just the way it is. If you don't know that going in, you're not paying attention. I don't watch Raw or SmackDown for wrestling. I watch it for entertainment. NXT, I think, is the best wrestling show on the air. Same company, but an entirely different product in my eyes. So,
well, evidently, Randy Orton does not agree with your thought processing.
Yeah.
He got upset. He called it the leg slap school. Evidently, in this show, they did a lot of leg slapping.
They did. Did.
He says that they need to learn not to leg slap so much and not to do as many high spots as they do.
I will not disagree that point with him. Yeah. My point is that they do better storytelling there than they do on the main roster.
On the main roster. Yeah. I don't know. Be honest with you, I have not. Okay, I can't bring myself to watch it. Okay, I tried to watch it, and at the same time, I understand that WWE is entertainment, but I have watched Hell's on Wheels. I've watched Justified, and they're all written television programs that are all written very well. Even on a writing standpoint, I don't think they're very well written.
Yeah.
I think it could be a whole lot better, and they could do a whole lot much better job if they just tell a story. And it's just like they get into, it's like they tell the same story every week. I don't know. I kind of see, I want to see a direction on something, and I never see it, so I quit watching it. I will go back and watch it, but right now I've been watching old wrestling tapes, doing things that we're going to do on Tuesday nights on the Freebirds. We've got shows coming up on the Fabulous Freebirds. We got shows coming up on another one on Brad Armstrong. So I've been watching that stuff instead of watching the new. And I must say something. Evidently, if you're on AEWs, I got that right again. I usually get that wrong.
AEW.
All Elite Wrestling. Evidently, if you want to beat someone else, all you must have to do is go get you some oranges and put them in a bag, and you can beat a man up with those.
Orange juice. All right. They get juice.
Now, I'm not saying that probably wouldn't hurt, okay? I'm not saying that probably wouldn't. That might hurt. But what in the world are they thinking?
Well, the guy they beat up, his wrestling name is Orange Cassidy. So,
okay.
it actually tied in to the character. So I was okay with it.
Maybe they're going for orange juice.
That's what I was thinking. And by the way, SmackDown, I think this is the problem that Paul Heyman had. SmackDown went back up to 2 million viewers. I think they're at 1.6 on Raw. Well, Vince, I'd hate to tell you this. I don't think it was Paul Heyman's writing, because when I watch SmackDown and Raw, I think they're the same show. But I think it's just because that's on network television you don't have to pay for. And Raw is on cable that people are dropping left and right. So maybe that is the reason those, when you're thinking about getting rid of Paul Heyman for whatever reason, if it's over the ratings, that could be a major problem that they're having. Network television opposed to cable television. So, well, that's our rants for the day. I had a whole list.
Oh, wait a minute.
Okay,
we forgot Chris Cruz, didn't we?
Chris Cruz. Yes, I forgot. I'm glad you brought that up. Chris Cruz. Does anybody remember Chris Cruz? Now, I know most people are not going to remember him, but he had about a year or 2 year stint on WCW. Was it World Championship Wrestling? Was it for Ted Turner?
Yes.
All right. I remember asking this question. I just remember this. I remember asking Dusty Rhodes this question one time. I said, man, that Christopher Cruz, man, that was a great announcer. And he said, yeah, baby, he had the voice, but that man wouldn't listen to nothing. He wouldn't listen to nothing, baby. So I had to go ahead and ixnay old Christopher. And I said, so now he is on Facebook. He's got about 2,700 people that are his followers or friends or something on his page. And instead of, when Wrestling 2 passed away, instead of him saying, condolences to Mr. Wrestling 2's family, we feel bad about his passing. Oh, no, that ain't what he had to do. He had to go on and say some very smart things about, hey, all these marks are going to start posting pictures. And listen, folks, if you're using the word mark in the wrestling business today, you don't know what the word means, so do not use it. Christopher Cruz, you do not know what it means. Don't use it. Because if you're using mark, then you are the mark. Because that means you're unaware. So you are the mark. So don't use it because you don't know what it means. And that's another rant. Do we have all the rants? Jack, do you have another one?
No, I ranted on him before we went on air. I think I'm good. So,
all right, we're sorry we got into a rant today, but there was just some things going on that just got all of us in our crawl. So,
get
We had to
full.
get it all. We had to get it all. We had to get it all out.
Get it all out.
So now we'll move on. We got a lot of people that have talked. Let's see. Let's see what I'm from Pensacola as well, Theodore. Hey, Theodore, you and who was the other guy from? Who was the other guy from there? Bubba Griffin. Both
Bubba, yeah.
From there. Lynn said, "Good evening, Jack." Lynn Gross.
Hey, Lynn.
That's Jack.
David Lawson said, "I'm from Cleveland. Can't believe Wrestling 2 hung out on Timber Hills Drive in Cleveland. Awesome stories from the 2 tribute show." Yeah, not only did he do that, but one night we were coming back from Knoxville, Tennessee, and back then you could, and Jack might remember this about years ago, but you could get these little M80s, but they were homemade. They were homemade. They were like a little thing of dynamite, okay? And these things could do some damage. So we're getting back from Knoxville to the Coliseum, and he goes out there and he thinks it's so. He lights one and he throws it, and it knocks out lights all the way around us. Yeah, he starts running, gets in his car. He says, "I'm leaving it with you."
Yeah, lights come on at people's houses. We're talking about like 1 a.m, and we're boom. And
it knocks out every outside light that's out there.
He said, "All right, I'm done here. We'll see you later."
He did mean Jack Daniels, so I was the clean version, and you were right about that. He said he will be in Rome this Saturday. So.
I'll see you then, Jordan.
Todd, Lisa, I'm finally tuning in.
That's Todd Zane.
Todd Zane, hello, how you doing, Todd?
It's
Zane?
about time. His wife and I agreed last night that we're going to do a new gimmick with Todd called the Abrasive Todd Zane.
Steve Rodney said, Jordan, not Rodney, said, "Rodney, I love that crooked smile, just like an old Baptist preacher." I don't know if we need to go there.
Nope, we'll not go there.
Oh, Paul Hatchett said, "Opinion on AEW." Well, I thought we did.
Trouble.
You know what? I don't watch it enough. I just watch little snippets.
I do watch it, and I'll be the first to admit I watch a lot of it and fast forward. But here's the thing: it's not my cup of tea, but it doesn't have to be. It's a product out there for fans who have felt left out. I don't think they're taking any fans away from the WWE. I think it's fans who were searching for something that they just got tired of WWE products, but they still wanted something. AEW has stepped up and given those people, what they want. It is not the show I would book. However, if fans came to me and by the thousands and said, "Hey, I would pay to see the Young Bucks," then I'd do my best to put the Young Bucks on my show. Yeah. I would hate to sit and watch that match, but I would love to sit and count that money.
Exactly. And evidently TNT is enjoying the show. They must like the show.
They're doing good. I wish them nothing but the best.
Now, it's not the kind of wrestling that we would produce, because we would produce professional wrestling that does include a storyline. It does include a storyline. Wrestling always did. But it's more of an in-ring storyline, maybe a little stuff outside of it. But it wouldn't be any WWR or AEW wouldn't be, and especially Ring of Honor. That stuff's horrible. And Impact's even worse. That stuff.
I can't. That's the one show I can't watch. I just can't get into that at all. More power to them. God bless them if they got fans, but it's not me.
Jordan said Nick Gula's spot show book in 1980 is better than WWE. And what about, you're talking about the basketball matches? I believe that's what he's talking about. Those were quality things right there. The basketball shows. That was what people. David Lawson said, "Lightning Express, underrated tag team, in my opinion." What you say? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, never was given the opportunity to really go. But as they were put together, that was at the end of Ole Anderson's run, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
So I mean, I don't think they got a chance. And if Brad would have went with Tim, there's no telling what that would have ended up being. I think that would have been spectacular. Dennis Mansell. Also, what was the background of Jim Carlisle, voice of Columbus Championship Wrestling? Where would wrestling be when Vince McMahon passes on? Jack, I'll let you start that one about Vince McMahon and where it will be.
Well, I honestly have a lot of faith in Triple H. I think he has a great vision. He is he's an old school guy at heart, and you can tell that by some of the storytelling that he tries to get across with NXT. And I know Stephanie's going to be probably over everything, but I you have to assume that Triple H is going to have a big hand in that, and hopefully she will defer to him to let him bring that product up to snuff. I know that Vince produces the product he wants to see, and I get that. But different people bring in a different vision. I give Vince all the credit in the world. I really think wrestling would have been pretty much non-existent if it hadn't been for him. The territories were on their way out regardless. And, Vince saw the opportunity and took it, and, kudos to him for that. I hate to see him go, but, everybody goes at some point.
Yeah. How about you, Rodney? What do you think?
I pretty much think Vince McMahon's the thing that holds everything together. I think that we'll see a complete, total dip when he's gone. I think he holds it together. I think he keeps it on the rails. If there are any rails, he keeps it on the rails.
Now, I'll agree with that.
I think it's going to be all out warfare, and let's just see if Stephanie and Triple H survive. Let's just see if that survives.
This will be. I think this is my opinion of it. Vince McMahon. I don't believe now. This might be. I don't believe that Vince McMahon was as of a genius as people give him to be. I think George Scott was at the beginning. George Scott knew how to take the wrestlers. He knew how to take Jimmy Snuka, Roddy Piper, Paul Orndorff. He knew how to build them. And now what made Vince smart was he was able to take those guys and say, okay, listen, we're going to be able to build this, but it's going to take me a while to build it. But once I get Jimmy Snuka over, once I get Roddy Piper over, now we're in the ball game. So I think you have to give the credit to George Scott. Then you have to give the credit to Terry Garvin and Pat Patterson. Because and you have to give Vince the credit because he did say, okay, all right, let's go for it. Let's do it. He wasn't like some people that own wrestling companies and just didn't want to listen to nothing nobody said. Right. But so I believe that you're only as good as the writing you have. And I think those people were the best. And I think really, if you look at Pat Patterson after Pat Patterson, it's never really gotten back. I think they did 2 years with the Attitude Era, which, unfortunately they say Vince Russo did have something to do with that. I don't know what he had to do with it, but they did say he had something to do with it. But so I just think that hopefully if they come with a completely new plan of attack, basically in their presentation, and quit doing this silly stuff that just, the Iconics, the Lady Iconics, come on now. That's just a joke. It's never going to get over. It's never going to draw you any money.
And we have to remember that when you're the time that you're talking about, every person that they brought was established.
Yeah.
They had already been established somewhere else. Hulk Hogan really was established somewhere else. He wasn't Vince McMahon's creation. No. Neither was Roddy Piper or Paul Orndorff or any of the others. These developed over the years. And I'm talking about developing. They didn't pop up on the scene. They developed in the territory system, which was the foundation, was the developmental, and now it is gone. It's destroyed. And so, how do you really develop? Because you have no training ground. There's no going from one place to the next, learning.
And you can't really learn on an independent level.
No. I don't think you really can learn inside of where you're in that where you're not able to leave and go somewhere else and work and then come back. Think about it. Ricky Steamboat was Richard Blood in Georgia. Okay, he developed his craft. He developed his craft somewhere else, and then George Scott made Ricky Steamboat, and he was a super superstar in the Carolinas. Ric Flair was not developed in the Carolinas. He was developed for Vern Gunner. If anybody have ever seen him without the blonde hair, he doesn't even look like the same person. You wouldn't even know him. He had a lot of weight on him, and then over the years he developed. So it's being able to develop elsewhere, and really when they came in, were Roddy Piper or Paul Orndorff or Jimmy Snuka, they were polished when they already came. There was no developing them, and they basically developed themselves. Dusty Rhodes developed himself over the years. Superstar Billy Graham developed himself over the years. And so there was no input really from Vince McMahon or his people on these core people who developed. Junkyard Dog was another already developed before he got there.
He did use all developed people. And when I say you can't learn on an independent level, I think that to learn on an independent level, you have to have somebody like Jack Lord that's going to be there to say, okay, you did step 1, 2, but where's 3 and 4? You left those steps out. But if you don't have somebody like Jack Lord, or you don't have somebody like Tom Pritchard or somebody there to say you left these steps out, you're never going to learn because you're always going to leave them out. Don't you agree with that, Jack? I think
you have
that. I'm back.
Right.
There's guys out there, and I'll specifically name one, Chase Owens. Chase works in Japan a lot. He does a ton of independence. He's probably one of the hardest working guys I know of. Now, you may not have heard of him yet, but you're going to hear of him one day at WWE, AEW, somewhere. I mean, this guy has talent coming out the top of his head, and he'll go everywhere. You know, anywhere he can go and learn, he goes and learns and gets better.
Exactly.
And he's one of the, he's one of the better workers. What do they call him, Gaijin or whatever in Japan? But he's one of the better American workers that's on the shows over there. And I'm proud of that guy. I've seen him, start from pretty much just the simple stuff and worked his way on up, man. It can be done. It can be done, but boy, you got to put your money and effort into it to get there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and you've got to know if you're a professional wrestler, if you're a guy booking a territory, if you're a guy running a territory, and you put Joe Blow in the main event against whoever, and it doesn't draw for 3 weeks, take them off the main event. They're not going to draw you money. Let them learn by what you do on 1 week to the next week to the next week. And if you'll learn that, that's how wrestlers learn. They learn from it not working, basically. I know a lot of times people don't have that, because they started from the first match on up, and they wasn't that first match didn't mean that you needed to draw the money. That person wasn't trying to draw you money. You were learning something. And I know today it's a little harder because you're trying to make every match mean something, but at some point, guys just need to learn. And I think once they learn, do I think wrestling can make it today? Do I think an independent? Yes, I believe it wholeheartedly, because I think a real wrestling program, not one that says they're going to be, but a real wrestling program can do very well today. I really believe that. David Lawson said, didn't get Chris Cruz. He was terrible in my opinion. Robin Carter Williams. Good evening, guys. How you doing, Robin? Thank you.
Hey, Robin,
for coming on here. And I thought Theodore. I think we already said hello to Turbo Ted. He was just making sure we said hello to Ted. Thank you so much for every show he comes on and watches our show. I think every one of them. We thank you so much for being a part of it. Norman Chambers. That's dynamite.
There were wars going on in Knoxville.
Let me tell you, Tony Atlas became a person who could not hear anything for days after he dropped one of those in the floorboard. He forgot that the number one thing about throwing them out the window is make sure the window is open.
That's right. Driving down the interstate, throwing them out. Yeah, make sure.
Those things would lock your car. They were so bad. But Tony Atlas decided he was going to do it. He lit it up, threw it, didn't have the window down. It went down, hit the thing, blew a big old hole in the floorboard, and he could not hear for weeks after that. Those things, the Knoxville started a real bad trend back in those days. It was fun. We used to take we would take Roman candles and stick them out both windows and shoot them at people's cars.
We had a traveling fireworks display. We go to jail for that today.
I think Mike Golden can tell you about that. I think he was behind one day. He got to see that show.
Got initiated big time when he first come in.
Yes. Joe Ballou. I like that name. Ballou. Is that how you would say that name? Joe Ballou. Piedmont, Alabama. That was the last place. No, I think we did Cleveland, Tennessee was the last place for promoted wrestling, but that was one of the places. They had a pretty good crowd that night. Robin said, "Good evening, guys. Watching from Atlanta, Georgia. Great place." Now we're fixed to talk about Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia Championship Wrestling, 1977. I forgot to do that last week. We got into the Alabama Athletic Commission. That we stayed on for about 40 minutes. I don't think
my bad.
And I forgot all about that. Hey guys, what's up, Jack? Kenneth Smith.
Hey.
Gary Lee Covert watching from Pennsylvania.
Hey, Gary.
Bristol Crash Romine. Hey guys, I'm gathering you're a referee for wrestling.
He actually used to referee for me till he pulled up stakes and moved to Dothan. Heck of a referee.
All right, Dothan, Alabama, great wrestling town, Dothan, Alabama. Rome, Georgia, in the house. Chad.
Hey, Chad.
So does Chad go to the wrestling matches on Saturday night?
I'm not sure, but if you haven't, you have no excuse now for not being there.
This Saturday night, KTL Promotions, right?
KLT
Promotions. KLT Promotions on Facebook. Find out all the information and get down there and watch wrestling Saturday night. You'll enjoy it. You'll really enjoy watching it. David Lawson, tell me how Pat Rose, Chick Donovan gets a mid-level push in Memphis, Southeastern. Then on Georgia TV, their enhancement talent. Pat was a great worker. I'll let Rodney handle that one.
It is based on the booker, okay? Let's say that Pat Rose he was working in Memphis, so Lawler was doing the booking. So if Lawler went to Atlanta, part of Lawler's crew would have been Pat Rose and Chick Donovan. Well, in Atlanta, the booker might be Ole Anderson or Bob Armstrong or whoever. Same thing with Southeastern. It might have been Robert Fuller doing the booking. So if he would have went to Georgia and he would have took his crew with him, if Pat Rose would have come with him because he had great success in Alabama with him, he would have took him, and then you would have saw him in a different capacity. Same thing with Outlaw Ron Bass. Ron Bass did great wrestling in Southeastern, drew a lot. When Bob brought him to Atlanta, he put Ron Bass on the main event, and I'm sorry, but Ron Bass wasn't going to draw on the main events in Atlanta. We not sure why. It wasn't Ron Bass's fault. It was just that it was not the right time for Ron Bass in Atlanta, not after the Superstar and all other people, because Ron Bass and Superstar's working abilities working in ring abilities were different. Ron Bass was slower than the Superstar, and so it doesn't quite match up. Or if you have Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich, that's a faster type match than what you would have with Ron Bass. And it's not Ron Bass's fault. He probably should not have been put in the position. But it's just based on who your booker is. And normally they like to bring, in any case, George Scott went to WWE. He brought all of his guys, Greg Valentine and Roddy Piper and Bob Orton Jr., all of them came with him. That was his crew. And the same thing with Bob. When Bob comes to the place, he brings his own crew. Or when Dusty goes to work for Jim Crockett, he brings his own crew. So that means that Steamboat and Valentine and Piper and all those guys who've been there for years got to move on, because he's going to bring in his own crew with J.J. Dillon and Magnum TA. And so it's nothing that says anything bad about Pat Rose or Chick Donovan. They were great talent. It's just that the booker and your leader, that wasn't a part of the plan for them.
If that would have been Ron West and he could have, Pat Rose would have got pushed in Atlanta. Bobby Eaton would have got pushed in Atlanta.
Right.
Dennis Condrey would have got pushed to Atlanta, but Ole Anderson always looked at Pat Rose, and he's a Tennessee boy. He wasn't going to push him. Unfortunately, Chick Donovan started in Atlanta and wrestled on TV in Atlanta as an enhancement talent, so he was never going to get the chance to work wrestle in Atlanta and be pushed.
It was hard to break past that enhancement level back then.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, and they were both great wrestlers. Pat Rose probably is one of the, as far as go back and watch his stuff from Mid-South Wrestling.
Yes.
He is incredible there and should have got a push there. He really should have got the push there because he was that good. He could have drawn money in Louisiana. There's no doubt.
Well, I wrestled Pat actually before I ever met him. We had separate dressing rooms, and I had a match with him. And, man, he was so good. I mean, I absolutely loved the match. And, and then the next night we worked each other again, but had a adjoining dressing room. I actually got to meet him, and he's been one of my best friends ever since then.
Pat is great, and what a lot of people don't realize is, Pat Rose wrestled as Mr. Wrestling. I don't know if he was Wrestling 2 or Mr. Wrestling.
I think he was Wrestling 2 when 2 became Mr. Wrestling.
Okay, so
yeah, they
sold out buildings everywhere as a tag team against the Armstrongs. Everywhere. They sold out Dothan, Alabama. They sold it out so bad they'd have these big, we called it the Dothan door. It was a big old door. They had to open that door up and sold tickets on the outside so people could watch the match. This was Pat Rose and Miss Wrestling 2, and they were Miss Wrestling against the Armstrongs. Big houses there. And so people that say, hey, wrestling was drawn, and Pat Rose and Wrestling 2 in the main event was packed. And I can't remember the exact year of that. I don't know if that's after he left it, Mid-South Wrestling, or it was before it. I'm not familiar.
I don't remember.
I believe it was before.
All right, I don't know. I guess we've already told him hello, didn't we?
Yep,
Gary?
Yep, we did.
Well, it's all right to say hello again.
Oh, say hello to you again, Gary.
Hello.
Chad said, I'm going to try and make it out this week. Listen, we're going to do a promo right now. Don't try. Get down there to Rome, Georgia. Because I'm going to tell you, there's going to be some butt kicking going down there Saturday night. We're going to kick some tail. You can't try. Get there. Sorry, Chad. I had to hit that interview.
That means, Jack, you save a chair. Put Chad's name on it. Put it up there where everybody can see it. And then say, we say.
Hey, and we've got a huge building, so social distancing is not really an issue. We could still put 400 people in that building and have plenty of room between everybody.
And Chad, you got to at least come there and then come back here on Monday and tell us all about it.
Are we gonna have some clips, Jack, that we can show?
Maybe.
Bring it on in.
We want to say hello to Adam Parsons. I believe if he is the guy with Parsons Television, right?
That's him. Great product, man. I'm telling you, that's great.
How do you get to that, Jack? Because I know I've went to it, but how do you get to it? Because it's called Parsons. Tell us.
Jarrett Parsons. I can't remember exactly how it's listed, but Google that thing. I watch it on Roku. They have an app, and I'm telling you, this is fantastic. I mean, you can start watching one episode, and it'd be like me the first time I found it. 10 hours later, I was still sitting there watching. I mean, I watched every Continental episode. I was watching, stuff from Memphis. I mean, I was just in a world that I missed so bad, and I'm thankful to those guys for doing what they're doing.
Right here, he said it's Jarrett Parsons Wrestling TV on and Fire Stick. Do watch that. Do be a part of that, because if you want to see old school professional wrestling, this is the place to catch it. Now, on Thursdays, we show you just little bits of Continental Championship Wrestling, but I think you can watch full shows on here. So make sure you go check this out. Great people. And so make sure you go up there and check that out. Let's see. Right now, I went out of there. Rita Cantrell, how you doing from Greer, South Carolina?
Hey, Rita, I used to have an uncle that lived in Greer. I used to go up there quite a bit. wonderful place.
Gregory Peal. Hello, gentlemen. Well, hello, Gregory. Oh, Chad said Pat Rose has a big fishing show now, doesn't he? Called
Set the Hook. Set the Hook with Pat Rose.
Right. He did a great show on Mr. Wrestling 2 this week as well. So if you, I think you can find him at Set the Hook with Pat Rose on Facebook. And Jerry Stubbs was on the show, and Charlie Platt. It was a great show. I listened to it Sunday morning. So make sure if you're out there, go Set the Hook with Pat Rose. Mark Harrison, Jarrett Parsons is on Fire Stick. Gregory Paul said, "Plug it." I guess maybe that was
we plugged it. Great show.
All right, I got to do this because I forgot about doing it last time. We got to talk about Georgia Championship Wrestling in 1977. This was a great year for wrestling in Georgia. It started really in 1976. Those 1976, 1977 started a 4 or 5 year run that Georgia Championship Wrestling did. Really, that was incredible. And so I want to start here. Here is the card: September 9th, 1977, Atlanta, Georgia, at the Atlanta Municipal Auditorium. It was a tournament for the Georgia Tag Team Championship. Richard Blood and Stephen Littlebear against Dick Slater and Sergeant Jacques Goulet. And Richard Blood and Stephen Littlebear won that match. Tommy Rich and Tony Atlas against Don Cornudo and Dino Bravo. Tommy Rich and Tony Atlas won that one. Ole and Gene Anderson against Dusty Rhodes and Thunderbolt Patterson. Ole and Gene Anderson won that match. Pack Song and the Executioner, which was Sergeant Slaughter, goes against Randy Savage, his pre-Macho days, and Bill White, Pack Song the Executioner, which were managed by Rock Hunter. Then we had Tommy Rich and Tony Atlas beat Richard Blood and Stephen Littlebear. Pack Song the Executioner beat the Andersons to advance in that. I would like to sing that. I bet that was a very good. I don't think I was there that night, but I would.
There was a difference. It was Rock Hunter.
Rock Hunter, I'm pretty sure.
Rock Hunter, yeah.
Is some bad things. I want to show a picture right there. Tommy Rich and Tony Atlas. This would have been a little bit at the time when they were teaming with each other. But they won the Georgia Tag Team titles by beating Pack Song and the Executioner that night. And here is a picture of Richard Blood. Richard Blood would eventually become Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And so here's the next year. Man, once I hit a high right there. September 16th, 1977, Atlanta, Georgia. The Atlanta Municipal Auditorium. Richard Blood went against Ken Dillinger. Sergeant Jacques Goulet against Stephen Littlebear. Jack Briscoe, as you see him here with Jerry Briscoe, went against the French Angel. Georgia heavyweight title match. Dino Bravo went against Dick Slater, and the Georgia Tag Team Champions, Tommy Rich and Tony Atlas, went against Pack Song and the Executioner for the Georgia Tag Team Championships. I love those belts right there.
Yeah, I love those belts.
I'm just looking at those belts right there, and you're talking about a team that was really over. Now, the World Tag Team title was on the line. Dick Slater. And it would be Dusty Rhodes against Ole and Gene Anderson. Now, it was not supposed to be Dick Slater. It was supposed to be Bill Watts, Cowboy Bill Watts, and Dusty Rhodes against Ole and Gene Anderson. What had happened was Dusty Rhodes came out and told everybody that Bill Watts wasn't going to be there. Now, remember, Dick Slater was a very, hated person during this time. Probably one of the most hated wrestlers in Georgia wrestling history. Would you agree, Rodney?
Yeah, we're definitely. Especially at that time.
So here's the scenario. Dusty Rhodes gets on the mic and tells them, he says, Bill Watts not going to be there, so he's needing a partner. So he tells them, I need a partner. So here comes Richard Blood. Here comes Tommy Rich. Here comes Tony Atlas. They all come out and they get in the ring. And he says, I need somebody that'll fight him. And he tells Tommy Rich and Tony Atlas, he says, listen, y'all just had a tremendous match. There's no way we're going against Ole and Gene Anderson. There's no way I can have you as a partner. He looks down the aisleway and he sees somebody standing in the aisle. And it's Dick Slater. And he says, I'll pick you, Dick Slater. So he goes, Dick Slater gets in there. You know, if anybody knows Dick Slater, he starts out real slow. He finally gets into his corner. He stands, the match is going. And Ole and Gene, by this time, they're feeling good. They got Dick Slater on the other side. They beat Dusty Rhodes down. He bleeds. He finally gets over there, gets that big tag to Slater. He just stands there for a moment, just looks, gets in the ring and starts kicking Ole Anderson and Gene Anderson's tail all over that place. They win the World Tag Team titles, but because Dick Slater wasn't the guy that was on the thing, wasn't on the contract, they went on television, took the titles away, and so they have a return match. Now, this is the reason they did all this. People will look. This is what we're talking about wrestling wise. They come back. The Omni is going to be run on September 23rd, 1977. Randy Savage and Bill White against Richard Blood and Don Sereno. Tommy Rich against Buddy Roberts, way before he's the Fabulous Freebird. It may even be before he was the Hollywood Blonde. Dino Bravo and Stephen Littlebear against Sergeant Jacques Goulet and the French Angel. The Executioner against Tony Marino. Dick Murdoch against Big Bill Drummo. Thunderbolt Patterson against Grizzly Smith.
Hey.
United States Heavyweight Championship, Ric Flair, Nature Boy Ric Flair, the champion, against Tony Atlas. Pac Song against Jack Briscoe. And the main event, World Tag Team title return, Dick Slater and Dusty Rhodes against Ole and Gene Anderson. And guess what? I think the Omni sold out crowd. I don't know. It says sold out, so I don't know. What did the Omni hold?
17,680, something like that.
17,000 people paid to see Dusty Rhodes and Dick Slater team up once again to go against Ole.
And it was a shock because right in the middle of this, see, Slater and Two was getting into it hot and heavy over the Georgia Championship. It was doing the I'm the Turkey Mask and all the other towns, and so yeah, it was right. So it was a surprise. It wasn't just one of those telegraph things. No, it was a surprise.
Yeah, you didn't see it coming. It wasn't something that everybody saw coming. Before we leave, let's make sure we get everybody in here. Steve Burton, was Tommy Rich as popular as he was in Georgia? Was Tommy Rich?
And I guess you're talking about in the Continental. No.
Well, you know, any other place that Tommy went to, he was over, but I think Georgia was the apex for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was. You know, I never saw. People, I mean, it was like electricity going through the air when Tommy would walk out with no music and the place would explode. Yeah, I don't think you even could have had music. I don't think you could have heard it for all the people screaming and carrying on.
I think you're right. Tommy Rich was really, and I don't think he ever got as over as he was in Georgia. Now, when he went to Ohio, you talk about somebody over. He was over in Ohio, West Virginia. I mean, they had to get extra police to get him in and out of places. That's how
he was. He was amazing. He was simply amazing.
Was Pat and Two before Mid-South? You know, I will look at that, and next Monday I'll see if exactly when that was, if it was before or after that. I'm thinking it was. It was.
I'll swing by the old folks' home and ask for Pat.
Pat, I did not say that. Okay, I did not. Even though you won't come on and do our show, I still love you. So, Gregory Peal, Roger, you can to Randy.
No. He was a great guy, and with the videos and stuff. He really created those wrestling music videos in Memphis, and he was very important with getting a lot of the wrestlers over by using that tool.
Todd said, great angle. I remember it well. Slater was looking through the curtain. Dusty chose Slater. Yes. Good stuff back then. Great storytelling.
And then for whatever reason, Ole disappears. Remember, Ole disappears. And Slater was there, and he's trying to find Ole, and he got into it with Gene and come across that table. Remember they had the table with Gordon Soley, and he come across the table and picked up Gene Anderson, slammed him behind the table. It was awesome.
Good stuff back then. That's the kind of wrestling we're seeing. If we were producing wrestling, and one of these days down the road, we will be producing old school wrestling, and that's the kind of wrestling that we're looking. It's because it was really character driven, basically. You know, it had great matches, but it was a character-driven show. It was more about Dusty Rhodes going against Ole Anderson. It wasn't about the match. It was about
those rivalries that created, whether it been Ole and Gene against Wrestling 1 and 2, or Thunderbolt Patterson and Ole Anderson, Dusty Rhodes, or Dick Slater in Wrestling 2, Superstar in Wrestling 2, Tommy Rich, Buzz Sawyer. It was those great rivalries that made it.
Chad Weeks said Tommy was a pretty good heel also. Yeah, he was, because, in Memphis, he drew a lot of money. He drew a lot of money as a heel with Austin Idol. So,
that was probably one of the biggest heat angles I ever saw.
Yeah,
that really was the only answer for Tommy in Tennessee.
Yeah.
As long as Lawler's there, you're never going to be in the top position.
There you go.
So there it goes.
Who was the better heel, Jack Lurt or Tommy Rich? Well, there's a tie there. No, Jack was magnificent. He could get so much heat, it's incredible amount of heat. Jack knew.
I was a natural heel. Tommy was a natural baby face. Now he could work heel. He was great at heel, but I was just a natural heel. You know, I like making people mad. They should hear the stuff we say off air.
Hey, you know what? Talking about that, we do have a Patreon page. It's patreon.com, Pro Wrestling Inside and Out, and coming soon we are going to be doing some separate shows, and in those separate shows we might say things on that we wouldn't say on here. Because mostly we figure, the people that we're going to talk about probably ain't going to pay to come on there and hear what we got to say about them. So, just certain things we might want to talk about that we can't talk about here.
I will emphasize it. We're still not the language factor that we have here is not going to change in what we do. You know, I have a lot of stories I can't tell without him putting some words in there, so I'm just not going to tell those stories. So
the things that we'll talk about, and I'm talking, this is going to be a while down the road, because we're going to talk about stuff once we get into the Continental Championship Wrestling. There may be things that we want to talk about that we only want to do it to people that really want to hear that stuff, that really wants to hear that behind the scenes things, because most people don't want to hear it. There are going to be some people that want to hear the real behind the scenes stuff, and we will be, but this is going to be a while down the line. We're doing everything we can just to do these shows. But it will be down the line. We will be doing some other stuff. So, David Lawson says Georgia Championship Wrestling came to Etowah, Tennessee. I remember saying Piper was late to the show. That caused him to be fired by Ole. He's actually fired by Jim Barnett. Jim Barnett's the one that fired him. What had happened was Buzz Sawyer and Brett Armstrong had to wrestle like 45 minutes, and we kept on. They were at home when they were a telephone call made. They were at home, and Dad told Tommy Rich, "You get Roddy Piper and you get him here. That these people are away." Okay, we're on the way. Well, they did finally make it, but Roddy Piper was making. I'll just throw it. He's making $3,000 a week. Okay, and this is in the 1980s. The man should have been there in Etowah, Tennessee, without having to be told that he needed to be there. And Jim Barnett, the next morning, says he's fired. Now, why Tommy Rich wasn't fired, I don't know. That's a question nobody really knows, because he should have been fired too. Because really, Brad and Buzz should have been given Roddy Piper's money for the week, because they really went out there and worked really.
Saved the show. Yeah.
They
got out there and wrestled for 10 minutes.
It was horrible. It was horrible. It was a horrible situation, and so it's just where did they wrestle at a wall?
I believe it was at the elementary school there, wasn't it? Seemed like it was elementary school or was it a recreation center?
Maybe a little recreation center, maybe in a little community building there.
We were sitting on a stage. It was on a stage. I remember no bleachers in there. I think it was all flat.
Johnny Witt was the local wrestling promoter.
Yeah.
He promoted that show. So I can't remember the name. I'll look that up. There is somewhere that I can look that up and see where they were. Jeffrey Archer said, "Evening, fellas. Tommy Rich, especially when that skinny fan climbed the cage and all around, and Tommy told him to come in. He did." What was the travel like in Continental? That was a fairly easy territory.
Yeah.
You know, it was Monday nights was Birmingham, Alabama, every Monday night. Tuesday was either Columbus, Mississippi, or Florence, Alabama, or some spot show. Wednesday, you were off most of the time. Thursday was always a spot show somewhere. Friday was maybe Panama City or a spot show around, except when Knoxville.
Mobile was on Fridays for a while.
Friday was for a while. It was a Mobile. When Knoxville started running, that got a little harder because sometimes you go from Knoxville to Dothan, Alabama. And that was a long trip.
And I remember one Christmas, and I think Thanksgiving both ran in the afternoon, ran in Knoxville, and then that night came back to back to Birmingham, or vice versa.
All right. Before we leave, Jack, are there any closing comments that you'd like to talk about before we leave this evening?
Yeah, just again plug our show coming up this weekend. KLT Promotions in Rome, 2561 Shorter Avenue. You guys come out. You've been locked up long enough. Let's have some fun.
Rodney, you got any more?
One thing I left out during our Wrestling 2 salute the other night. When we were talking about him. When I was growing up, there was 2 superheroes in my life, and that was Mr. Wrestling 2 and Batman. Those were my heroes, was Wrestling 2 and Superman. And I just wanted to send our regards out to the Walker family, to Robert, for sharing his father with us all those many years. It was an honor to get to know him, an honor to call him a friend, an honor to have him riding up and down the roads with us. And I just wanted to get that in because I didn't get an opportunity to say it the other night.
All right. Well, Wrestling 2, no doubt, one of the greatest masked wrestlers of all time. There's no doubt about it. And he will be missed. But we will be talking about him several times because we just started talking about Georgia Championship Wrestling. And there's other things that we've got so much planned right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. We thank you so much for being a part of the show. And we hope we see you next week, or we see you tomorrow, as we will talk about the Masked Superstar. That's tomorrow right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. See you then.